In this movie, Two Popes of Netflix, there is this scene that when Pope Francis tells to Pope Benedict that the confession does not help the victim, it only helps the abuser, because he gets the retribution, the redemption, and it doesn't help the victim at all. Hello again, guys.
Hi, everyone.
I'm Waldemar.
And I'm Weronika.
And we are Double Reactions.
Yes.
And today we are watching another segment from this discussion panel, Is the Catholic Church a Force for Good in the World? And we just finished watching Stephen Fry, and we said that we will watch Chrisopher Hitchens next, so this is what we will be doing now. Like I said in the previous video, it's an interesting pair-up. The calm, collected guy, very sympathetic, and Chrisopher Hitchens, who is more of a kind of like an aggressive speaker. He is a famous atheist and a discusser, a person who is advocate, for the atheism, and he is called one of the horsemen of apocalypse. Okay. And
he's the Pale Rider. And judging by the suits. Also, Richard Dawkins is one of them. Okay. Sam Harris. Okay. You may not know that one, but Chrisopher Hitchens was always my favorite, because Dawkins for me is too scientist, and he is very intelligent person, very well read. He has some good arguments, but he is not so forthcoming,
entertaining to listen. I read his book, The Delusion God.
No, that's not what it's called. Awesome. I don't know. I know this title in Polish.
Yeah, but, I'm not sure. But yeah, even the book is difficult to read. It's very, very scientific.
There are tables in that book, aren't there? I think there's a table of data.
I don't know.
Somewhere.
I don't know. But yeah, and Sam Harris for me is too emotional. He likes to make those arguments, those pauses that are oh, you see what I did right here? It was so I was talking about those drastic things that the church did, and now I made this pause.
He's a performer.
Yeah, and I don't like him that much. And Chrisopher Hitchens was always my favorite one, and he died a couple of years ago for a throat cancer or something like that. And many people made fun of him, they were saying that it's a punishment from God.
It's very nice to all the Catholic people who died from throat cancer.
From all the things that he said, that God sent him a throat cancer for that. Yeah, I'm not against dark humor, but it's it's different when it comes from people who were supposed to be loving thy neighbor. So now we will be watching Chrisopher Hitchens, and I'm not sure if we will watch the other persons from the panel, from the church.
Maybe we should watch the opposing
argument. I think maybe we should, but on the other hand, me personally, I came from a very religious family, and like I said in the previous video, I spent 8 years of my life being in church every day. So in my life,
you've had this already.
I've spent my time listening to priests.
Okay.
And I don't know if I want to do it more. I think I've had enough, and I don't need to hear their arguments anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of, for me as well, even though I wasn't that religious, it's not we don't know what they are going to say, and we don't know their side of the argument.
Yeah.
And this is a new issue to us, and we need to be educated on both sides. It's,
Yeah, but if you would say in the comments that you want us to react to the other guys, to this bishop and this lady, then we will do that. Yeah. But only if you really want it. Yeah. We may do some poll for you, and you can decide.
That's a good idea. That's what we'll do.
So, we'll begin.
Now, I'm sorry, though, to have to begin by disagreeing with His Grace. If you're going to be a serious grown-up person and appear to defend the Catholic Church in public in front of an educated and literate audience, you simply have to start by making a great number of heartfelt apologies and requests for contrition and forgiveness. Now, you might ask, you're fully entitled to ask, brothers and sisters, who am I to say that? Well, in the Jubilee Millennium Year of 2000, the Vatican spokesman, Bishop Piero Marini, said, explaining a whole sermon of apology given by His Holiness the Pope that was supposed to cover the entire history of the Church in its Jubilee year, that I'll quote Bishop Marini directly. He said, "Given the number of sins we've committed in the course of 20 centuries, reference to them must necessarily be rather summary." Well, I think Bishop Marini had that just about right. I'll have to be summary too, but I think he said just about the least of it. His Holiness on that occasion, it was March the 12th, 2000, if you wish to look it up, begged forgiveness for, among some other things, the Crusades, the Inquisition, the persecution of the Jewish people, injustice towards women, that's half the human race right there, and the forced conversion of indigenous peoples, especially in South America. And that followed a whole series of preceding apologies, or apologies, I would say, of a kind, made by the late Pope John Paul, who, it troubles me not at all to say, was a very impressive and serious human being. It followed no less than 94, count them, public recognitions on his part of appalling crime and error and cruelty and stupidity and offences to the free intelligence, ranging from, I shall be summary, like Bishop Marini, the African slave trade, apologized for in 1995, the admission that Galileo was right about the relationship between the sun and the earth and other orbs, which came in 1992, one might add. No, I won't say, it's too easy to say better late than never. Here, I said it. To violence and torture, legalized torture. Torture was legalized and institutionalized by the Roman pontiff during the Counter-Reformation. That came in 1995. And for silence during Hitler's final solution, or Shoah, as well as, in 1999, coming in just under the Millennium Jubilee wire, an apology for the burning alive in the main square of Prague of the great Czech Protestant Jan Hus. Since that big fiesta of forgiveness that began in, or culminated, I might say, in 2000, fiesta of forgiveness, fiesta of asking for it, the papacy's also asked to be forgiven for the sack of Constantinople and the massacre of Byzantine Christianity in April 1204 as part of the Fourth Crusade, the anathema on all Eastern Orthodox Christians as unbelievers, heretics, and people dwelling outside the health of the Church was lifted only in 1964. I call your attention to that. He also expressed sorrow about the murder and forced conversion of Serbian Orthodox Christians in the Balkans during the Second World War. And it doesn't end there. There are smaller but significant, equally significant, avowals of a very bad conscience. These have included regret for the rape and the torture of orphans and other children in church-run schools in almost every country on earth, from Ireland to Australia. And I'm pleased to see that due reconsideration is now being given, and may in fact have been given, to the hellish, I choose the word carefully, doctrine of limbo, St. Augustine's cruel and stupid disposal problem, solution to a non-existent problem, that is to say, the destination of the souls of unbaptized children. Up until now, Catholic parents have been taught that's where their unbaptized children went, a form of torture that's sometimes worse than the physical. Now it seems that this piece of Augustinian sadism is undergoing reconsideration as well.
And in the Bible, Jesus says to his apostles that they have the keys to the heaven. I learned this in Polish, so it's difficult to translate. But they have the keys to heaven, and because of that, whatever they will say on earth will be changed in heaven. So if they will change some rules on the earth, the rules will change in heaven. Mm-hmm. That's the understanding of the word, of those words by the Christian Church. And because of that, the things that they will say are truth. They will become truth just by the fact that they said they are truth. So because of that, they could say that there is the dogma of Virgin Mary, of the Holy Trinity, and stuff like that. So imagine the perspective of one of those children, like for 2,000 years, every child, maybe not 2,000 because it started from the St. Augustine, so like let's say 1,500 years. So for 1,500 years, all the children that died unbaptized were in the limbo, and now they changed this law, and the first children who died after this is like, whew, Good. It's good that I was born right here and not before, because I would have to spend 1,500 years in a limbo.
But does it work backwards? Does the children who are stuck in hell get out now? Or
yes, I think yes, but it's after the 1,500 years.
Well, it's so much like paperwork for the devil now. Getting all of them out. Like, oh, it's just signing out. I just
they changed
here.
Something else now. Like, oh god damn. To hell with that. Let's call them in. They need to pack. Tell them that they need to pack up and they will go upstairs.
We still await a more direct admission. For example, I give some suggestions of my own while we're at it. I would like them to take back the Concordat made with Adolf Hitler, the first treaty he ever signed, giving the church a monopoly over education in Germany in exchange for the dissolution of the Catholic Centre Party to give the Nazi Party a clear run. I'd have apologized for the Lateran Pact with Mussolini, myself, also the first treaty ever signed by that fascist dictator. I would also think I'd want to reconsider the fact that Father Tiso, head of the Nazi puppet state in Slovakia, was a priest in holy orders. That the Croatian fascist puppet state, the Ustaša state of Ante Pavelić, was also operating under full clerical protection and disguise, as was the regime of General Franco and the dictator Antonio Salazar. And I really think I would beg forgiveness for this. I don't think the German church should have asked Hitler's birthday to be celebrated from the pulpit every year until he died. These are very serious matters, and they're not to be laughed off by references to the occasional work of Catholic charities. But I draw your attention not just to the apologies, ladies and gentlemen, but to the evasive and euphemistic form that they take. Joseph Ratzinger, the current Pope, considered by Catholics, to be the Vicar of Christ on earth, says of the Indians who were massacred in the course of conversion in Brazil, after the apology had been made to them, he said, nonetheless, it must be remembered that before we came to convert them, they were silently awaiting the arrival of the church. I don't think that's a very genuine kind of apology to you. In his comment, one of the few he's made on the institutionalization of rape and torture and maltreatment of children in Catholic institutions, he has said, it's a very severe crisis which involves us, he said, in the following: in the need for applying to these victims the most loving pastoral care. Well, I'm sorry, they've already had that. And to say that this is the responsibility laid upon you by the horrific admission that you've already had to make is not accepting responsibility in any adult sense. When I say child abuse was institutional, how dare I say so? How can I prove it? How can I prove such a thing? Well, I'll ask His Grace, and I'll ask Anne Widdecombe. Where is Cardinal Bernard Law now? Where is he? Where is the Cardinal Archbishop of Boston, whose resignation was indignantly demanded, finally, by 50 members of the Church and by the whole laity of Massachusetts, who also demanded his prosecution for the promotion and protection and covering up and apology for.
The Bernard Law is the cardinal. He's famous from the movie Spotlight.
Yeah, we watched it, I remember.
Yeah, and he was the Archbishop of Boston at that time when this everything came to knowledge, came
to light, to spotlight.
Yeah, and yeah, after he was deposed from Boston, he landed a pretty convenient job in Italy. He was like a bishop or something like that in some old church in Italy where he lived in luxury.
I think they say it at the end of the movie, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Promotion and protection and covering up and apology for and defense of people whose crimes against children are too revolting to specify. And he's not in the jurisdiction of Massachusetts now, as perhaps you know. He's the Supreme Vicar of the Church of Santa Maria Maggiore in Rome, personally appointed by the Pope to that as well as many other important sinecures. And in 2005, this man, a fugitive from justice and from complicity in the filthiest crime that it's possible for a human being to imagine, was one of those voting in conclave to decide who the next Vicar of Christ on earth will be. I don't know. I think I'd like to hear a bit more shame about this. I think I'd like to.
It's one of the things that he said that there's really no other way to put it, but that this is just stupidity. Because, before it all came to light, covering up, moving these priests from place to place, okay, it wasn't an organized event. They were trying to cover it up as much as they could. Everyone covers for their own, okay. But you have a situation like this, when all of this is coming to light, the only thing the religion has to do is PR. That's the only task that you have, is PR. And you make a decision like this for one man? How much money could he have possibly given you?
Maybe because it's not for one man. Maybe because they know how the structures would collapse. They would have to start.
Yeah, but you have to sacrifice at least a couple of people. Why didn't they do that? They didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
And it's just so stupid. And I'm telling you, the only job you have is all of these people thinking of how to convince other people to join our church, how to convince other people to reach the Lord and salvation. And you cannot bear to get rid of 3 or 4 people to make an example out of them?
Yeah, I already made this joke analogy in a previous video. But imagine like McDonald's or Amazon or something like that. Like how many burgers you think they would sell right now if every 5th McDonald's there would be a child, and they would not sack him, not send him to prison, but they would change his location from that McDonald's to other McDonald's, so he won't be bothered.
Yeah. Or would you make it public?
And if imagine you have a worldwide scandal about it, that McDonald's is hiding pedophiles in his ranks, and McDonald's is like, what? No, nothing like that.
Yeah, there are a few rotten restaurants, but you like our burgers anyway, and our burgers are the only real burgers, so you have to go to some other restaurants anyway.
Yeah, and how? Imagine a world when this kind of corporation doesn't bankrupt immediately during basically the same week.
Exactly, or like even political leaders, like think of which countries is it possible to move people to and you hide them from the public eye at least. And the countries who can afford to just move people to different positions when everyone can see, those are not
exactly.
the best countries. Yeah. In most countries you get a public apology and then you are sacked from the public view forever. Maybe you get a good deal, but at least you are not so openly still in charge of something.
And you are not saying that those people just trying to destroy the legacy of the Jesus Christ because they dare to attack the church, and the church is like okay, let's continue.
See a bit more confrontation with the reality of the business. Now, this is a serious question, as I've said, and Whittaker very often, rightly, in my opinion, attacks the climate of moral relativism and of anything goes that can very well be the handmaiden of postmodernist hedonistic culture. I very often am glad that she points these things out. But the rape and torture of children is not something to be relativized. It's not something to be excused as a few bad priests. It's certainly not to be excused by the hideously false claim made by some Catholic conservatives that this wouldn't have happened if queers hadn't been allowed into the church. I'm sorry to say that queerdom in the church is an old story too. And it's worse, it's much worse than pornography, and it's much worse than bad language on TV. And it's the crime that cries out for punishment. It's the thing that if we were accused of on this side of the house, we would die rather than admit. And if we were guilty of it, would kill ourselves. And it's the one thing the church has decided to excuse itself for under this papacy. The same euphemism comes in the term some Christians that is used in all the apologies about the Crusades, the Inquisitions, the anti-Semitic pogroms, and all the rest of it. It says some Christians fell into error. Some Christians allowed themselves to be deceived in this way and to act against the gospel. Well, anti-Semitism was preached as an official doctrine of the church until 1964. Do you think that might have something to do with public opinion in Austria and Bavaria and Poland and Lithuania? That the Jewish people were accused collectively as a people of deicide, of the crime of the murder of God in the figure of Jesus of Nazareth. And that anathema on them was not...
I'm sorry, but why did he say Poland? I mean, it's not like Poland didn't have any instances of the...
Anti-Semitism?
Anti-Semitism, yeah, because we had some real instances, like drastic ones, with even killings of groups of Jews. But It's not like a place that you would say in the same...
He also said Lithuania, though. He said some other country.
Yeah, but I don't know why, because... I'm sorry, but as a Pole, I feel like I feel offended to be mentioned in the same line as Germany, Nazi Germany, Austria, and Poland. And I need to say that Poland was had such a big concentration of Jews during the World War II, because Poland was a fairly good country to live for the Jews since like the Middle Ages. Not a little bit after Middle Ages, but since like 17th century, I think, there were many laws in Poland that protected Jews. That's why we had such a big population of them, and that's why concentration camps were created in the Polish territory mostly, because
for efficiency.
It was easier to have those concentration camps closer to where all those Jews are than to have the concentration camp, like for example in Greece, and to transport all these people to Greece. So that's the reason for that. And also, the Poles have the most biggest number of people awarded with this honorary title that Israel gives to the people who saved the Jews during the Second World War. It's called,
yeah, I know, but I don't know what it's called in English.
I don't remember. I will try to look it up. But yeah, so I don't like being mentioned in the same line as Germans. Yeah, I'm sorry.
We had this. Now I feel like it was very recent, but I'm sure it's not. But there was the talk of the Polish concentration camps as well. It happens quite often.
Yeah.
Now, so
that's why there is this term Polish concentration camps, because they were in Poland, yes, but the Poles didn't operate them. They were killed in them, and not only Jewish Poles, but also non-Jewish Poles. And a lot of them, quite a lot of them.
Lifted until in the figure of Jesus of Nazareth. And that anathema on them was not lifted until 1964, well after the perpetrators of the Holocaust had stood trial in secular courts and been rightly punished for their actions. How can this church say it has any moral superiority? It has difficulty catching up to what ordinary people regard as common moral and ethical sense. And it still can't make itself apologize properly, and I'll tell you why. Because, and I'll quote again from the encyclicals, it is said of the Crusades, of the complicity with the Holocaust, of the political and diplomatic alliance with fascism, of all of these things, it is said, well, violence was committed, but I'll stress this, I'll underline it, I'll quote directly, in the service of the truth. So how is an apology possible? How is any understanding or undertaking or firm purpose of amendment to be allowed when the original sin, so to say, the radix malorum, the fons et origo, the problem in the first place, is the belief on the part of this church that it does possess a truth that we don't have, and it does have a God-given right, a warrant, a mandate of heaven to tell other people what to do, not just in their public, but in their private lives. And until that is changed, till that fantastic and sinister and non-founded claim is changed, these crimes will go on repeating themselves, being partially denied, partially admitted when it's too late to do anything else, and covered up. Behind all these crimes and miseries is the denial of what we on this side of the House affirm, which is that the only little candle of hope that our species does possess, our poor, bare, forked, primate, mammalian species, of whom you have two such splendid examples on this side of the House and not bad on the other tonight, is the unfettered intelligence, the method of free inquiry in philosophy and in science, and the refusal to admit that any one person can tell you not to do that. It's the one thing I might say, I think, is, if not sacrosanct or sacred, is, shall we say, essential. And the Church has always stood and still stands against it. Now, in the little time remaining to me, I'll just propose a few more apologies that we might hope to hear in the immediate future. Because there'll come a time when the Church will issue apologies and explanations and half-baked appeals for forgiveness for things it's still doing. The readmission as a bishop of Roger Williamson, a member of Marcel Lefebvre's fanatical, hysterical breakaway sect, so-called Society of St. Pius X. Roger Williamson, found hiding in a reactionary quasi-fascistic establishment in Argentina has long been a believer that, I'll put this shortly, that the Holocaust did not occur, but the Jews did kill Christ. In other words, genocide no, deicide yes. He was quite rightly excommunicated some years ago, along with several other members of his ratbag organization. But Joseph Ratzinger's invited him back into the communion because to him, having this man, this liar, this fraud, this racist in the church is more important because it's church unity than the things that he said and done and continues to stand for. Is this not a crying scandal? I think that there will be an apology for what happened in Rwanda, the most Catholic country in Africa, one of the most Catholic countries in the world, where priests and nuns and bishops are on trial for inciting from their pulpits and on the church's radio stations and newspapers the massacre of their brothers and sisters. And the papacy was silent on this appalling occasion, and everyone in Rwanda knows it. And there hasn't yet been a properly written apology for that disgrace. Staying in Africa, I think it will one day be admitted with shame that it might have been in error to say that AIDS is bad as a disease, very bad, but not quite as bad as condoms are bad, or not as immoral in the same way.
It was weirdly cut. I wonder if there is like more of that. We will look it up.
Yeah, because he didn't say like "thank you, ladies and gentlemen" or something. So it does, but it's the one that has over 1 million views. So I would say it's the official.
Yeah, it looks like it's official one.
But yeah, well, he wasn't quite as outspoken and aggressive. I mean, outspoken is, but aggressive as you prepared me for. He was,
but he was like, emotional. But he was more emotional. He was like more on an attacking side, like pointing out all of those circumstances, all those occasions that the church did in fact commit atrocities or just bad things.
But it's all and the philosophy of the church that you can come out and you can apologize for it, but you are not going to sacrifice an ounce of your power or money or do anything in retribution. You just repent for it, and then you're going to say, I don't know, Hail Mary 1,000 times, and you are forgiven, and you go to heaven.
I mean, even in this movie, Two Popes of Netflix, there is this scene that when Pope Francis tells to Pope Benedict that the confession does not help the victim, it only helps the abuser, because he gets the retribution, the redemption, and it doesn't help the victim at all.
Yeah, I always thought, the Catholic Church has so many tools that could be used for something better. Like, it's still an appalling idea that there's an old man listening to you, telling you his secrets, but I can see it. I can see an old lady.
Your secrets.
Yeah. But I can see like an old lady coming to confession, and she talks about her, I don't know, her neighbor and something that she did bad to them. And I can see an opportunity for a little bit of like paternalism, that he says, okay, but you must go to her, you must apologize, because blah, blah, blah. This is, you have to spread your Catholic ways, and you can do this, and then if you want to be forgiven, you must go and apologize if you feel bad for it. And then I still don't really support it, because it's, what right do you have to do this? But if you are already shepherding these people, and that's what you are trying to do, then at least do it, and not tell her that she has to say Hail Mary 15 times and she's forgiven because she admitted to the
But I don't think that I agree that with what you're saying, that the church should do that, because
I'm saying I don't know, but if you have this philosophy already,
but that philosophy is kind of rotten. Like, for example, when you have marriages, and they are Catholic marriages, they did the sermon in the church, so like the Catholic Church is always against divorces, and for them it's like no matter whose fault is that, no matter the reason.
No, you can if you someone is impotent.
Yeah, but you can get an annulment, but not a divorce.
Yeah.
But they are strongly against divorce. You cannot marry again unless you get an annulment, which is a different process completely. But for them, like in a situation, the hypothetical situation, like you said, if, like, for example, a woman would come to a confession and she would say that, my husband beats me, he beats the children, blah, 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 and I want to leave him, then what you're saying is what happened really, and it happens now, then the priest would say, no, he is your husband. You swore to him in front of a God that you will be with him until you die. So I don't think it's such a good idea to let those...
The idea of confession even is...
Yeah, and it's not a good idea to let those people put any ideas into other people's heads.
Maybe it's too dangerous. Maybe.
Yeah, I think they are too dangerous and they need to be stopped, basically. That's what I think.
I don't know what the purpose of confession is, really, just so you feel better about yourself? Because you said it to someone out loud? I don't know.
But purpose for whom? For church is a great...
Well, for church, yeah, but for the faithful. Yeah, for the faithful, I don't know what it gives you.
I mean, it gives you, like, if you are being told that you are pure now, and if you will die, then you will go straight to heaven because you will, absolved of your sin.
Yeah, I just mean from, like, the ideology, what is it supposed to do so that you're closer to God and you're a better person?
Yeah, but basically what church teaches you, from what I remember from my young days, is that you want to be in this constant state of I don't know the word for that in English, but that you are always ready for a salvation.
Oh, okay.
That when death will come to you unexpectedly, like if you would die today, then you want to be in the state when you will go straight to heaven, or just spend a little time in purgatory, but not too long. So you want to keep being in the state. That's why you go to the confession regularly, like every month, and you don't count like your sins, like, oh, I didn't sin that much this week, so I don't need to go yet. It's not like with your hair that you are like, they are not long, and I don't need to go to the barber. But you go every month because you know that you will be in the state that if you will die, you will go to heaven. So that's the point of confession for them.
Makes sense.
But yeah, when it comes to the video, it was a very interesting one. And if you have any more videos of those kind, we would gladly watch them.
Yeah, I think we always have a lot to say. And this one was very factual. I liked how he listed a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's not the last time we watched Chrisopher Hitchens on this channel. I think we will watch some more of him. For now, thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.
And if you liked our constant pausing and interrupting for a discussion, then you can give us subscription.
Because this is what we do at this channel.
Depending on the content.
Yeah. Okay. Bye. Talk to you. See you in the next video.
Goodbye.